Wow. Right? So you were a dancer. We know that. I looked at the films in the description of you, and like most of us documentary filmmakers, you've done a lot of different things. How long did it take you to get to this film?
You mean how many years was I working in film till I did this?
No, how many years after
Ballet?
being a dancer, and then you picked up film? I should actually ask, how
And
did
you
you
would
go
know
from
my
there
age.
to film?
You know, dancers start really young, right?
Yes.
Well, I did start as a ballet dancer. I went to School of American Ballet in New York City and had a career, and I retired in my 30s. And actually, that's when I met Yehuda, because I was taking classes in New York City, and I was starting to work in documentary film. And I continued to take classes, and I took his, and we met, and we became fast friends.
Was that not during the lockdown? Because
No, this is way before the lockdown.
So how did you meet him?
He was teaching classes in New York, and I was taking his classes. But to tell you the truth, actually, I knew him before. I spent my teenage years in Israel, and I was at the school of Bat Dor, which is the company that he danced at. And so I saw him as a principal dancer in the 70s. See, I'm giving away my age. But so it was in the 70s. He was the principal dancer. He was the top dancer in Israel. And then fast forward, I started taking his classes in the 90s.
Wow. Did you always want to do a dance film? And I've always wanted to do a dance film, and I haven't done one yet.
So I've been working for, this is my first film that I've directed. I was working, thanks, for over 25 years. I had kids and was working in film. But it was when my kids got to a certain age and I was feeling like I wanted to do something more creative, and because I was always producing and I had never made a film and I was never a director. And this film fell in my lap because Yehuda asked me to tell the story. And he came to me because I knew him, as you know, and I knew that I knew him when he had gone back to Israel, and that he was going to get fired. And I thought he was going to get fired because he was almost 70 and he was teaching ballet to these like 10-year-old girls, and they're like almost crying. I mean, he wanted them to be, he was so demanding, and he had this idea of perfection in his head. I mean, he had trained some of the top dancers of the world, Nureyev and Makarova. So I even said to him, Yehuda, why are you yelling at these kids? You know? And he just didn't understand, and he did get fired. And then he went to India.
And so did he call you because he found Manish and said, you have to make this film, or you?
No, it started that I did know he went to India. I saw that he found these two dancers, Amir and Manish. And he was always trying to get money. Yehuda has no money. Everything goes to dance. And he was trying to raise money for the kids sometimes. And so that's when, though, at that point, he said, Leslie, why don't you tell this story?
How long did it take you once you started filming? It feels like you were there the whole time. That is one of the great things about good films. It feels like you never leave. And then you learn, oh, we did it in 10 days. Clearly you didn't do it in 10 days, but tell us about that.
So we started filming, and it took 5 years to make the film. The thing that was special was that Yehuda let me into the life of the kids. So without Yehuda was the gatekeeper. But he came to me and he wanted me to tell the story because as a dancer, he is a curmudgeon. He's just doesn't like, it's dance, dance, dance. But he thought as a dancer that I could tell their story, and he trusted me. So he just let me in and let me in a way he would never have let anyone unless they had been a dancer. He won't talk to non-dancers. That's not totally true, but sort of.
Well, it's beautifully edited and beautifully shot.
Thank you to Jennifer, who edited it. It took us over a year to edit. It was a long time.
And can you talk about the DP? I mean, it's beautifully shot. And can you talk about who that person is, and were they already a dance cinematographer? And then I'll ask you about directing.
So the question is a good one, but I'll tell you the answer. The answer is that it is not about the cinematographer in this film. There is a wonderful cinematographer, Neil Barrett, but because we were low budget and I didn't have a lot of money, a lot of different people shot it. And I even shot a lot on my cell phone. But the credit goes to the colorist who colors it, to the online editor. These are, artists in their own right, and we just don't recognize them or know that they are the ones that did the finishing. So there was a lot of different footage. The audio mixer, these are all people in Washington, D.C. We had, cell phone audio, we had proper audio, so that it looks seamless and looks beautiful is to their credit.
And the use of the vertical cell phone footage that you tripled was brilliant, because we as filmmakers go crazy when we see vertical camera. What the heck? How could you? And I had never seen that before. Any filmmakers here that have seen that before? No.
Well, if you don't triple it, then there's...
Yeah. So
then
when
there's
did that idea come?
If you don't triple it, then there's black on either side. So it was kind of, in that way, it was sort of the obvious solution to fill the screen,
Yes, of course, but it's an idea that obviously came to you, and it's not, of course.
Well, actually, what made me think of it was that some brilliant person, was filming, and maybe it was Leslie. Actually, it probably was Leslie. Was filming them dancing, and had it landscape, and the dance started. The kids all came from the back of the class toward the camera, and then they turned it very slowly and beautifully. Turned it really slowly to be a vertical of just Manish. And that was, they just did that, and I was like, oh well, I'll use that. And then once it was with the vertical, then just put them on either side. And then at the end of the dance, he did it again. It wasn't you. It was like this, and then turned it back. So they gave
what she. In other words, what she's saying is that when you have crappy cell phone footage, is what she did, because that was early footage. We didn't take that footage. And everybody holds their phone like this, but the screen is like this. So how do you deal with that in the edit when you got vertical? But she did it very creatively.
Very creatively. And you could have just, you could have just stuck with every time there was vertical, you do the triple, but you didn't, which made it artistic. And it really made that work. Characters. We all hope for great characters. You knew when you got there, you had Manish and you had Yehuda. So that's usually enough. But then you had his parents, and then you had his grandmother. And the grandmother, I'm getting tears in my eyes, the grandmother turns the story for him and makes it, okay, go.
Yeah, well, if Manish were here, which maybe you guys have to plug. So Manish is still in New York. First, I'll tell you about Manish. He's still in New York City. He's dancing with Perry Dance. And next week, if you're there in New York, you want to go. He's dancing, and he would say this. He said, he was so sad because he would never be the prince. But he just got the role of the prince in the Nutcracker at Perry Dance. So it's his first prince role next weekend. And then, and we have to also tell you that please tell your friends if you like this movie, because we're opening in the theaters one theater in New York City, the Quad Cinema, on the 15th to the 21st. And it's so, so important for a small film like this that the box office is good in New York, because then other theaters will pick it up. And we are mostly, I self-funded this film, and we are a small group of people who believed in it. A lot of people didn't get paid who were working on this film. I'm still trying to hopefully make the money to pay them. But tell your friends to come to New York City, the Quad, 15th. And Manish will be there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like 3 shows a day. And honestly, he's just such a genuine, lovely, lovely human being, which that's back to your point, the characters.
The characters.
Right? Yeah, the characters. And Manish, the first time I interviewed him, which was under that tree with the temple in the back, like the stories were just coming out of him. And I was like, what? Say that again? What did you say? He told story after story after story. And I think he was so excited that somebody was talking to him and listening and interested. And, you know, what propelled me. So I found this amazing character who just, I mean, you heard nothing. I mean, he still has so many more to tell.
Talk about working in another language. I mean, you got great things from those people. Did you have a simultaneous translator off stage with a little bubble in your ear? Did you have to wait? If you wait to hear the translation, you've killed the energy of the interview. And the interview is all about the asking the question and then hearing and then doing the follow-up question, which is often more interesting than the question, and then the follow-up to the follow-up. How'd you do it?
Well, we did have a wonderful Indian crew as well, so that were very helpful. Also during COVID, we always had a crew ready because we couldn't go to India. But wait, what was your question?
How did you deal with the translation?
The translation, a lot of it was just luck. Honestly, just luck. And to have a good crew who understands, like even some of those scenes it was done by Neil Barrett, who only speaks English. But we came back, and after we got things translated, it was amazing. I was like, oh my God, we hit gold here. But some of it I didn't understand what they were saying. And we, of course, loved Grandmother. And
yeah, that was great. I'm sure you have no questions, but let's try.
All right, Roger. Oh, thanks. Before this, I was told to ask a good question, so I've been thinking the whole film. I'm also a first-time director, and I was a dancer. And how...
and she has a film playing next Wednesday called 999. Tuesday.
When I was developing my director skills, which was a very slow curve, I was amazed at how directing is like choreography. And I'm just wondering if you could talk about that, because I suddenly was like, oh my God, like there's the music and there's the movement, and it felt like it all came together. And I'd love to hear you talk about that.
I think it also comes together is when we're in the edit room. So, I mean, even Jennifer and Jennifer's really brilliant, so a lot of the storytelling comes from her. And what was I going to say about the edit room? Oh, the choreography. Sorry. It's also that we were talking about it just now. We chose a really good composer. And she's in England, and it really ties the story together, almost like a feature film. She scored it. But also Jennifer made amazing choices too. There's not all of it is her score. Like some of it was classical music, some of it's hip hop, so it was all different. But the scoring, I think, helped. So it pulls everything together. Of course, as a dancer, I do have a certain what I want to see for dance. But honestly, when we first met, not first met, we'd known each other, but we never worked together. And I asked Jennifer, because I knew it was a dance film, I was like, have you ever edited dance before? Remember? And what did you say? No.
I probably said something like, all editing is dancing.
Exactly. Say that again.
All editing is dancing.
That's what she said, because I was like, I wanted somebody who understood music and could put music and movement together, because that's what dance is, like you said. And I was like, well, did you ever do that? And she said, yeah, all editing. No, she'd never done anything to do with dance, but all editing is like dancing. And she was
How
right.
many saw her Alfred Hitchcock moment? Well, you got to see it twice. In the COVID scene, right?
Yeah.
Another question?
Sorry, thanks. So, I noticed Manish saying that he started out as like more of a street dancer, and I noticed him saying that he always considers himself an Indian artist, and he felt more comfortable at the more contemporary modern dance academy. So I'm curious as to why him and the people like around him seem so focused on him succeeding in ballet, especially since considering India has such like a massive, dance is such a massive part of their pop culture and cinema and media. And like myself and, I believe Yehuda says in the film, like, oh, I think he can make like a good movie star. So I'm kind of curious as to why ballet seems to be his main goal and concern when, he has so many other opportunities available as perhaps an Indian dancer.
It's sort of interesting that we have 5 minutes left. In India, ballet sort of passed over. I mean, ballet is all across the world globally, and then it's definitely in Asia. But they didn't have a ballet tradition, and so when Manish went into that ballet class, he'd never seen it before. And Yehuda's classes are filled with men because they don't have a preconception, oh, ballet's for girls. All they saw was these jumps and this athleticism, and it was like his acrobatics. So he fell in love with ballet. But he, didn't have. He was 21. He didn't have the right feed. He's small. I mean, he didn't have the natural talent, and the training starting at 21 is late. As Amir, who started when he was 12. And why didn't he continue to be a Bollywood, go into the movies like he could have? And because he loves dance, and that's what also connected me to Manish as a character, is that I was a dancer, and this is my love poem to dance. I love dance. And Manish comes from a very different background than I do, and Yehuda comes from a different background than I do, but we all three have the same love and passion. And I can't describe it. It's just that I know I can connect. So that's what connected me to Manish, that this person that I understood him completely. And just as I understand Yehuda completely. So sometimes I thought that Manish would go into the movies, and he didn't. He just said, no, I love dance too much. And actually this summer, he was offered this Amazon 26-part series, and it could have given him a lot of money. He struggles in New York. He doesn't have money. He still has to give money to his family. And he called me, and he's like, Leslie, I think I should do this. And I was like, okay. He said, it's only 4 months long, and then I could come back to New York. I was like, okay. As a dancer, I never try also to tell him which way to go, or even my feelings. I want him, he can make his own decisions. And then he hung up, and then the next day he called me right away, and he said, no, I don't want to do that. If I go back to India and do this movie, and they're going to make me do acrobatics, and I'm going to get injured again, and I'll miss out on the Nutcracker or whatever, and I can't do it. I can't do it. So his heart is in dance, even though the money is better. And
yeah, there's no money in dance. I think we have time for one more question, if anyone has a final question.
Oh, so we wanted, 2 minutes. One of the themes that we've just been talking about is ageism in the film, which you might have noticed, which is Manish is told he's too old to dance. And from the outside, yeah, even I would say he's too old to start. And Yehuda's told at 70, you're too old to teach. And Yehuda had, he was fired. He had nothing left. And India called, but he knew that in his heart, even if he's 70, he still has something to give. And India has a totally different culture than we do here. And they revere their seniors. And they say seniors are gurus. And he was able to show the world in a way, look, see, I trained these 2 kids. And there's 2 more kids that came out that are in international companies since then. So the theme of ageism is, very, it might not be clear, right, but it was definitely in there. And
I'll ask the last question. Okay. Oh, Jackie, come on. Okay.
Yeah, she's asking, is Amir still in Miami? He's not. Right now he's in Los Angeles training with somebody there.
So it was a short question.
Nah, let's just congratulate them.
Thank you. Tell your friends. You can follow us. You can find us on callmedancer.com. And we're going to be in New York, LA, Toronto, but we really need your help. And you can see any performances that are coming up, screenings.